Hello everyone and welcome back to the Chessable Masters 2024. We have a very nice game between Alireza Firouzja and Denis Lazovic. Denis Lazovic played the finals against Magnus Carlsen. He lost. Magnus advanced to the grand final, and now two of them are playing in the losers bracket of the final, where Alireza Firouzja defeated Yanni Pomnishi in the semifinals of the losers bracket, and now he faces Denis Lazovic for the chance to face Magnus Carlsen in the grand final. This is the first game they played, and it's quite a tricky one. Now, in these games, as this is rapid chess, 10 minutes per player plus 2 seconds increment, of course, you will not have a classical game type setup where, you know, one player has the advantage and then they nourish it for 50, 60 moves until they win the game. Here it's more of a let's trade everything quickly, let's play really quickly, and then you know, whoever is the more precise player, whoever is able to play precise moves more you know, quickly, will gain the upper hand. So it's a pretty tough matchup for Denis, although he is an incredible player. You've seen how he struggled against Magnus because although he matched Carlsen's moves move by move, he just took a lot more time to make them. So let's see how he does against Alireza and who will face Magnus in the grand final. So Alireza has the white pieces and he opens with pawn to e4. We have pawn to e5, knight f3, knight to c6, and bishop to c4. The Italian game is on the board. We have bishop to c5, the Gioco piano, and now not everyone's favorite move, but pawn to d3, the Gioco pianissimo, as we see it pretty much all the time. Knight f6, we have h3 and d6, so pretty standard stuff. c3, both players will go for the usual moves. Black plays a6, makes room for bishop to a7, knight b to d2, and bishop back to a7. So later on you will not get a tempo on that bishop while advancing b4 or d4. Bishop back to b3, and now you can, if the bishop gets attacked with something like bishop to e6, you can shift it over to c2 and keep the bishops on the board. Castles, and now knight to f1, going for the standard reshuffling of the knight. Also, you will now be able to counter the dark square bishop. So if bishops get traded off, you can even get a knight to e3. We have bishop to e6, and Alireza tugs the bishop back to c2. Also, by playing this, you give up the control over the d5 square, so Denis goes pawn to d5, e captures, and now there is a game where knight captures was played, but here we have bishop captures on d5, and it is now already, as of move 11, that we have a completely new game. So okay, knight to g3, going for a pretty standard setup. Rook to e8, preparing pawn to e4, even better when the white king is in the center of the board. So Alireza quickly hides it over to the king side. We have pawn to e4, and now d captures, knight captures, and now bishop to f4. Now, the bishop is putting pressure on the c7 pawn. For the moment, it's defended by the queen, but if the queens get traded off, the c7 pawn could become a target. So that's why knight captures on g3, bishop captures, and bishop back to b6 to add a defender to the c7 pawn. We have rook to e1, offering a rook trade, and Denis trades. We have rook captures, Alireza captures with the queen, and queen to f6, putting pressure on the knight on f3. And now queen to e2. As the d8 square is not covered by anything, so you don't have to worry about rook to e8. The queen is very nicely placed here, and Denis has to decide whether he wants to continue with something like king to f8 or g6, or he wants to ruin Alireza's kingside pawn structure, which he does. He plays bishop captures on f3, but Alireza not ready to call it a day just yet. He plays g captures on f3. He wants the queens on the board, g6, and the rook to e1. So Alireza claims the e file for himself, and Denis claims the d file for his rook. King to g2, we have king to g7, and now bishop to a4. Putting pressure on the knight, and now rook to d7. Now, rook to d7, and this is what I meant in the beginning of the video, although you could easily have this being played in a serious classical game. These are really good moves played by both of them. Rook to d7 is, well, imprecision to call it like that at the least, because you can easily win a pawn here. Now the question is, even if you spotted this in a blitz game, well, it's a rapid game, but now Alireza is below 4 minutes, and Denis is already down to 2 minutes. you will play bishop captures and c6. I will just show it because it's a lot of fun how you can win a pawn. Bishop captures, queen captures on c6, and now queen to e8. And now, if you don't want to have this queen on e8 when bishop to e5 lands, of course you will offer a queen trade. So rook to d3, now you're offering a queen trade while attacking that f3 pawn. But now bishop to e5 with check, pawn to f6 is the only move, otherwise you just get destroyed. So pawn to f6, and now queen captures on c6, pawn captures, and look at this, bishop captures on c7. That's how you win a pawn. It's crazy, of course, you don't see that in, with minutes on the clock, but it's really impressive stuff. Rook captures on c7, and yes, the black rook would get the second rank, go after the b2 pawn, and the white would have to decide whether to go for pawn to b4 and give up the a2 pawn, or something like captures on c6, captures on b2, captures on a6, and white would be up 2 pawns. It's probably too much to ask if you would be able to keep both of them, but even if one gets picked up, you will still have the other one to push for the win. But even if you see this, it's hard to say if it's good winning chances, or you prefer to keep everything on the board. So queen to e8 here by Alireza, rook to d8 chasing the queen back. We have queen to e4, and again repeating rook to d7. The idea behind this weird rook to d7 move is that he wants to play rook to e7 and trade off rooks. But bishop captures on c6 still a possibility. However, bishop to h4 by Alireza, now trying to bait g5 to play queen to g4. But we have queen to f5 offering a queen trade, and now Alireza says, all right, I don't have anything better, I will mess up your pawn structure on the king side and queen side both. So he plays queen captures on f5, g captures, and bishop captures on c6. B captures now Alireza with a set of doubled pawns, but Dennis with 2 sets of doubled pawns. Bishop to g5, now reshuffling the bishop over to f4 to again put pressure on c7. Pawn to f6 and bishop to f4. We have king to f7 and king to f1. So objectively, it's a pretty equal position. Maybe a little bit easier to play for Alireza, but still, with the bishop on b6, it's hard to take advantage of those doubled pawns. Rook to d3, going after the f3 pawn, king to e2, and now rook back to d8. You don't have a way of keeping your rook here. So rook to d8, and now rook to d1. Alireza even offers a trade of rooks. It's hard to say if he realized what was happening here, but probably he did. Otherwise, you just don't offer the f2 pawn for the c7 pawn. But Dennis took the bait. Rook captures on d1, king captures, and now, and interestingly, Alireza had 40 seconds on the clock here. Dennis had only 8 seconds on the clock. He played bishop captures on f2. While a good move, it's just not a good move at the moment. First, you should improve the position of your king, like king to e6, and after king to e2, king to d5. And if you look at this position, for example, king to d3, black can play whatever. Black can play pawn to c5, threaten pawn to c4. If pawn to c4 check, then you go back, and there's no way for the white king to advance any further. However, Dennis decided to capture the pawn on f2. He thought, okay, I'll capture the doubled f pawn. Alireza will capture the doubled c pawn. I mean, nothing really changes. We're just trading pawns here. But that could not be further from the truth. Bishop captures on f2 was played. Bishop captures on c7. And now look at the difference. King to e6, but now king to e2. Alireza advances with the king with tempo. Huge difference then with the position that we've discussed. Bishop does go back. King already comes to d3. Okay, we have king to d5, but now pawn to b4. Chases away the bishop, and after the bishop moves, now even pawn to c4 with check. So you can see how this position where the pawns are controlling everything and the bishop controlling the dark squares, it's much, much different than the one where the black pawn was on c5 and the white king was completely cut off from entering the game, at least via the center of the board. So king to e6, king to c3. Now Alireza says, all right, your pawn on a6 is stuck on a light square. I'm just going to bring my king over here and take the pawn. And you have really nothing to do here. I have my pawns on light squares. You have a dark square bishop. This is now winning for me. Okay, bishop to e1 with check, king to b3, king to d7, attacking the bishop, but really just gaining tempi to shift the king over to the queen side, bishop to f4, and king to c8. We have bishop to e3. And now a bishop to g3. Pawn to a4, grabbing more space here, king to b7, and now pawn to b5. And if you really want to try and hold this, you do anything but capture on b5. But Dennis decided that it would be easier to hold with pawns traded off. But again, he did play all of the moves, from 10 moves ago to the rest of the game with like 5 seconds on the clock. He was playing on increment. So he traded everything, captures, 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 but now Alireza has a passed pawn, and with the bishop nicely complementing it, there's no way for the black king to get near that pawn, and also the dark square bishop pretty helpless against the pawn on a light square. So king c7, king to c4, we have king to d6, and now bishop to c5 with check. King e6, now pawn to b6. Okay, king goes back, you want to stop that pawn. King to d5, now bishop to f4, and bishop to d4, going after the f6 pawn, bishop g5 defending, and bishop to c5. Here then it's repeated with bishop to f4, but now, well, there are quite a few moves that you could use to win this game, but feel free to pause the video and try to find the one that Alireza used. It really is the nicest one, while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on finding the cleanest way to win the game. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is pawn to b7. That's the move, and the reason for it is that the black king cannot stop it. And it doesn't matter that the bishop covers the queening square, because, okay, we could take the long route. Let's say you just do nothing. You just try to grab hold of this diagonal. You will easily outmaneuver the bishop. Bishop to b6, and okay, now once all of the useless moves are, depleted, let's say pawn to f4, now you will play bishop to c5, and there's really nothing. If you go king to c7, then you just give a check, trade bishops, give up the pawn, and then use your king to pick up all the other pawns. And if black tries wasting more time, then bishop to d4, and now you have to do something. Bishop to c7, and bishop to e5, and that's pretty much it. You either trade or you don't, doesn't really matter. You will capture here, and then you will just gobble up all of the pawns, and that's it. You will put a king on g7 and advance your f pawn to victory. That's simple as that. So Dennis tried king to c7 instead, but now comes Alireza's real punchline, and that is bishop to d6 check. He temporarily sacrifices a bishop to temporarily sacrifice the queen in order to gain momentum on the king side. Bishop captures, we have b8 with queen, comes with check, of course, king captures, and now it's a simple win. You will just take everything, and that's pretty much it. King to b7, we have king to e6, king to c6, and now Alireza starts gobbling up the pawns. King to d6, king captures on f6, and he was in this position on move 60 that Denis Lazovic resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. For those of you who are maybe new to chess, the reason for that is that once you play a move, king to g7 will be played, or even f4. You don't even have to rush it. After king to e8, you will play king to g7, and now with the king guarding these three squares, it's merely a matter of advancing the passed pawn to victory. That's it. King to e7, f5. There's no way to stop the pawn. All of these squares are defended, and it's just gonna become a queen, and that's it. So really a fine game by both of them, and you've seen that Dennis can really play with the best of them in quicker time format, and it really all came down to this moment where Dennis decided to trade these two pawns prematurely when it was really time to just improve the position of your king. So sometimes in your own games you can also think about that. What's the best way to improve my position? And always, if you can, if nothing is burning, you want to make your king as active as possible. Not too active, that will cost you games, but as active as the position allows it. That's how Alireza won. The second game ended in a draw, so Alireza wins the losers bracket finals and will face Magnus Carlsen tomorrow, or rather, I believe it's tomorrow, in the grand final of the Chessable Masters 2024. So there you even have it. Alireza defeated Nepo. It was a draw, and then they went into Armageddon. Alireza bid less time, so he won the bidding war, and he was able to take the win in Armageddon. And then he proceeded to the losers final, where he defeated Denis Lazovic with 1.5 to half, and tomorrow he will face Magnus. Carlsen in the grand final of the Chessable Masters 2024. So yeah, good attempt by Dennis. He did face Magnus in the finals. He did wait for the winner of the Nepo Alireza match, but he could not take down the great Alireza. So tomorrow we will have a feast, Alireza versus Magnus. Very much looking forward to it. So once again, hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Gerhard Henkelman, Jeremy Aniftos, Carl Weinberg, Rajashi Chaudhuri, and David Gasparian for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.